Justin, how many rocks should you eat in a day?
Well, Martin, I guess that really depends on how much glue I put in my pizza. I hate taking a bite and the cheese slides off, so I'm a heavy glue kind of guy. So I guess 2 or 3 rocks gives me my daily minerals. How
Those,
about you?
yeah, these are some of the things that we're hearing. Now, we haven't verified it from Google's new generative AI search that drew apparently a lot on Reddit, right?
That's right. And so I see the value in feeding data, especially when a concern is that we're running out of data to feed these models. I can see why you would go to Reddit. It's a wealth of or a vast wealth of information. But if I wanted to train a language model on how to be sarcastic and whimsical, Reddit is the place to go. Unfortunately, if you want it to spit out anything factual, it's probably not the best place. I've heard some wild ones out there, and every single one comes back to some type of sarcastic answer like putting glue on pizza.
Yeah, and the key to understand is what we talk about in training is these systems don't have a morality. If they're given data that's sarcastic or possibly false, they don't have a filter to know that's a human being sarcastic or whimsical or making something up. And I believe this is an example of Google pushing something out the door too quickly before they fully tested it because they're concerned. They're trying to compete and they might be having some challenges. Now, I want to say, Justin, I haven't directly seen these. These are things we saw other people, but from a number of pretty good sources that they come up with just unhooked answers. And it's not outside the possibility of a large language model. And that's why we always say verify. Don't just assume and take it for granted.
That's right. And I think what spooked Google, and I'm not in the boardroom or I'm not privy to any information, but I think it was Elon Musk with X talking about how they were going to train Grok on information from X. And really, I hesitate to say this, but in a way, it's probably safer to train a model on X, Twitter, because there is a lot of news and a lot more factual information on X than you're going to find in Reddit. So I think that was a little bit of a desperate move. I think, if anything, they definitely got their quota of brand mentions on social media and the internet from just the hysterical laughter and jokes from it. So, they might have won a little bit there. Um, but still, I think you really have to make sure that you have certain parameters in place when you're going to start pulling data from social media. Meta is doing it with Instagram. And yeah, I think Instagram in a way is kind of a halfway between Reddit and X and how serious of information you're going to get. There's a lot of great information on Instagram. You can learn a lot, but there's still a lot of TikTok like things on Instagram too that I would really question the factuality of it. And so it's just going to be an interesting race over 2024, I think.
Yeah. One of the things about Reddit is I heard now that they think Google's training off of that, and it looks like it is, they're now getting people stuffing in content
Hmm.
and they're getting these farms kind of like they used to have the link farms and all that. So they're going
Right.
to have to address that. And they just like they had to address it with gaming the system for Google when the semantic search system came on that solved that problem. So this is what we're seeing is growing pains real
Hmm.
time of AI right before our eyes. Is it going to be solved overnight? No, but the important thing is kind of pay attention to what's occurring and notice it and get a good chuckle out of it.
And that's right. We mentioned sometimes in class, I like to talk about the Ouroboros effect, or for those who have young children, The Greedy Python by Eric Carle, where he eats his own tail and essentially disappears eventually. I think a lot of people in end of 2023, the first quarter of 2024, were real worried about, you know, these models being trained on data that they regurgitated and the hallucinations poisoning the actual data. I think we now know that there's certain security fences put in place where that shouldn't happen. So I think the validity and the data sets they're trained on are safe, but it does make me a little nervous when we start looking into things like this that are, like you mentioned, farms. I have seen footage, and there's been one story that circulates where a gentleman in another country made about $500,000 in a matter of 2 or 3 months because he essentially set up a farm for likes. And I think now he's actually having charges brought against him, but it's well known in certain circles that there are farms outside of the US where you could have hundreds of phones run by just a small team of people, and all they do is mention brands or write about brands to bump up their numbers, and then the rest of the time they do filler comments and things like that. I have seen some stories already with Reddit to where that's happening, where they have these teams that are outsourced, where it's a whole room or it's a whole office of just walls of phones and devices, and one person is, assigned to so many devices, and that's all they do all day. So we have that's kind of feeding this hysteria that SEO is dead and that these farms are going to alter how AI is trained and how the future of search is performed, in conjunction with the mess we're already seeing with situations like Google and hallucinations and inaccuracies. And so I think you're going to see maybe kind of a whiplash of sorts where you're going to see maybe progress slow down a little bit because everybody's starting to pull the reins in to make sure that everything is valid, accurate, and reliable. And then you're either going to see everything kind of jump to where it would have been once that's established, or you may see things slow down a little bit and consumers get a little frustrated with that. Again, I'm not an expert in this, but that's a gut feeling I have. At least I hope they pull the reins back a little bit to make sure everything's safeguarded.
Yeah, because this is changing everything in search. If you've got a answer right there, which consumers will want, and they're able to do it accurately, then where is SEO? Now, what I teach and we have in our digital marketing is let's make sure we know who we're speaking to. Let's make sure we have quality content. Let's use it in our email. Let's use it on the ground and also have a solid ground game that complements what you're doing on the web. To me is still the best thing over just throwing stuff out there and hoping it will be caught by the new dynamic search. I also want to state that the generative AI, we've been working in our class with this to
Mhm.
teach people how to get experience in it for quite a while now, because you can get in the beta version a while ago, and we've taught how to do that. So when you have a chance to test out beta things like this, it's probably important to do it and get a sense of where the errors are, what's going on. Justin, you remember quite a while ago, we had a price error for one of our clients, and they put in a suggestion to change the price. We checked it remotely and it was updated. So,
Mhm.
this is why keeping up with this is so important. So, that's why I want to talk about we need to watch that. Google is changing massively, and there'll be a lot of bumps, and there'll be a lot of people's content that's going to disappear or reappear. This is why you need multimodal connections, a solid ground game, good referrals, an email list you control. All of these work together to protect you during these turbulent times.
That's right. And with Google's history, especially with imaging and some of the image scandal they had not too long ago with bias, I really don't think they can afford too many more issues like this, especially with Microsoft really integrating Copilot into their Windows 11 and then their Copilot Plus PCs, which come equipped with their integrated NPUs or neural processing units. So they're really stepping up the game to where you actually have devices that come integrated with AI already. So the competition's hot. I've even happened to see some third-party competition popping up from smaller companies that offer an integrated workspace with AI, similar to Office 365 and Google Workspace. So now you have smaller companies starting to jump out and really try to get into that niche. And so even though Google is massive, this is especially important, the competition between Google and Microsoft when you go to professional workspaces like an office setting, because Microsoft already has such a strong foothold in that niche that Google really has to make sure that they don't let any third parties get in and take a piece of that pie, that they're already fighting with Microsoft again. And something else that we've talked about that I know has knocked a little people back and made them a little skeptical, speaking of this competition between Google and Microsoft, is the Microsoft's recall. What do you think about
Yes.
that?
Yes, yes. Well, it's a cool idea in technology. It's taking micro frames and then really building your own little AI system in simple terms on your computer. It's going to use its own compression system. And then when you ask it questions, it's going to go local to find them. Now, of course, they're claiming the all the images it's taking, which will probably include your password, your bank
Mhm.
account, all that other stuff, is secure. But how secure? We
That's
don't
right.
know. And the other good news is you can turn it on, but it's already getting a little backlash. I mean, imagine
Mhm.
if there was a way to hack into that, you've got somebody with
Right.
security clearances working on a computer and it's taking multiple pictures. Or you step away from your computer, if someone sits down and they're able to get in and say, oh, by the way, go ahead and open my checking account and see what I have in there. This could cause some problems. It's exciting technology, but
Mhm.
they're going to have to do more to reassure people of the security. And like you mentioned offline, right now it's a turn on feature. Well, people are going to be suspicious that it
Mhm.
might be not automatically turned on because both government and companies certainly have not built a lot of trust in the last few years.
And it's really something in the concept of there's nothing new under the sun. As soon as laptops came available with a forward-facing video camera, you saw tape over the camera for the longest time, and you
Zuckerberg
still
had it.
see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he even has it, which tells you something. If one of the biggest tech CEOs in the world keeps tape on his camera, and then speaking of Meta, there was the huge concerns a few years ago where if you have the Facebook app on your phone, then while you're not using it, it's farming data off of your phone. There's that big thing, that scare that went through. And the same I've heard with TikTok, things like that. And if anybody's familiar with some of the online work, remote work, like Upwork is one. I've done some work with Upwork before, and essentially, how you track jobs there is you download an app, and that's exactly what it does. Every few minutes, it'll take a screenshot of your what you're doing and send it to the client. That way, you can actually track, and audit the validity of the hours you're reporting. And so the purpose between the photographic memory and recall is really for one, the user to track efficiency. It's going to be like having your own kind of assistant on your computer helping you work. And then two, it's supposed to be able to help with you if somebody says, find that spreadsheet I worked on last week,
Mm-hmm.
and needing help with things like that. If you're maybe not, you don't have enough time to really organize the way you want or this and that, but again, there is a huge security risk too. And right now, we did a video not too long ago talking about Copilot and how serious Microsoft takes security. And I would think that Microsoft's probably one of the most secure in the world. However, when you have organizations out there that can hack governments, Microsoft's not beyond anything. And I think I would imagine at least, they're probably going to have a time on their hands with cybersecurity releasing something like this, because I would think for, Black Hat or, certain type of organizations that are malicious, they're going to see this like a dinner bell and flock to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I really hope that Microsoft's done their due diligence in hiring some good ethical hackers to test this out. But I'm on the fence. I could see where this could be really beneficial, but again, I just really hope they're taking it as serious as it is.
Well, this is the update I wanted to include today. And we want to keep hearing from people. When you give us your questions, it leads to more shows. So keep them coming. Also, make sure to check out our book. It's available on Amazon. It'll be below. It's very relevant. It's a good foundation to get. And when you get the book, reach out to us, because now we have a group that you can be part of for people to have conversations after they've purchased our book or been in one of our AI trainings. I'll put a number of those links below so they can see it. But Justin, this was the latest one. Don't eat rocks and don't put glue in your pizza. That's the important thing to know.
That's right.
Even if Google tells you to.
Let the pizza cheese just slide off. Eat it separate if you have to.
Yeah, that's great.